There's no denying that cringeworthy reality TV kisses make for binge-worthy television, but when their cringy kiss goes viral, the best reality contestants can hope for is that their kisses fade into oblivion. But not yet. These are some of the most embarrassing kisses in the history of reality TV. Vinny Guadagnino and Angelina Pivarnik have a storied smush-hate relationship. Throughout Jersey Shore Family Vacation, Angelina was very vocal about the lack of intimacy she shared with her actual partner, Chris Larangera, whom she married on screen in 2019. This made the onslaught of flirtations between the Jersey Shore frenemies all the more uncomfortable. But the pair's very first hookup still stands as the most embarrassing. Before the pair locked lips during season 2, Vinny had already dubbed Angelina the, quote, Staten Island dump for showing up to the house with trash bags rather than suitcases. Regardless of the nickname, the pair ended up getting tanked and drunkenly set aside their differences with a sloppy cab ride makeout session. To make it more awkward, they were jammed in the back seat with their fellow castmates. Angelina brushed off the hookup by saying, "You do stupid things when you're drunk." But with enough sexual tension to endure a literal decade, this relationship seems to be a lot more love than hate. At this point, it's embarrassing they won't own up. The Bachelor is renowned for two things: countless women who miraculously fall head over heels for a man they hardly know, and embarrassing kisses. Season 13 still stakes a claim to the most disgusting Bachelor kiss of all time. It all went down when contestant Shannon Blair was in absolute tears over how much she loved Bachelor Jason Mesnick. Since ugly crying is basically a snot factory, the contestant began blowing and picking her nose before leaning in to plant a very short-lived kiss on Jason's lips. He let it happen, but quickly pulled away to help her pick off the pieces of tissue stuck to her nose. In a confessional, Shannon said, "When I went to kiss Jason, I feel like he kind of rejected my kiss. He just ended it abruptly, and he kept telling me that I had napkin on my face. Excuse us while we try not to gag." 2 seasons before the great Inez and Sam scandal, Married at First Sight Australia set the tone for awkward kisses with an uncomfortable beach scene between Cheryl Maitland and Andrew Jones. The stakes had been raised because Cheryl was Andrew's second chance at love. The star had already split from his first match, asking the experts to pair him specifically with the hair salon assistant. But judging by their kiss, they were not singing the same tune. The pair sat together on a beach with candles as Andrew serenaded Cheryl with what looks like a sweet little ukulele. Cheryl seemed sort of into it, but when the song was over, Andrew leaned in for a kiss and was straight up rejected. Cheryl flatly said, "I don't like it." Needless to say, they're no longer together. Big Ed Brown parlayed his run on 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days into full-fledged internet fame, but that's largely because the star's storyline was filled with deliciously embarrassing moments, and not just the mayonnaise he regularly put in his hair. Mostly, fans were transfixed by his Filipino girlfriend Rosemarie Vega, whose face was perpetually contorted into a look of utter disgust. By the time the pair first sort of locked lips in their hotel room, Ed was already on a sort of apology tour for previous rude remarks he made to Rose, pouring champagne and rubbing her feet. He then asked her how to say kiss in her language before politely asking,
"May I halik you?"
She flashed her patented stink face, playing dumb. He finally leaned in and gave her cheek a smooch, but asked one last time for genuine lip lock. Rose relented with the kind of peck you'd give your mouth-kissing aunt. It's safe to say that Ed Brown and Rosemarie Vega's relationship did not make it. The 90 Day Fiancé extended universe is a treasure trove of awkwardness that spans far beyond the powers of Big Ed. Asuelu and Kalani are actually one of the rare couples that have endured, which isn't completely surprising considering the pair's shared heritage. Nonetheless, the real takeaway for fans was Asuelu's embarrassingly passionate kiss with his mother, who had long been a source of conflict for the couple. The mouth kiss, which lasted more than 10 passionate seconds as Asuelu sobbed and hugged his mother, who was caressing his back, was truly a scene to behold. The scene was extremely uncomfortable, especially with Kalani and her sister standing behind them blinking and forcing smiles. On his season of The Bachelor, Jake Pavelka and Michelle Kujawa built up a kiss to be explosively passionate, only to have it swiftly fizzle as soon as their lips locked. The pair were having an intimate conversation when Michelle asked the reality star, "Would it be awkward if I asked if I could kiss you to see if I really feel something for me?" As soon as Jake reluctantly gave her a smooch and recoiled, Michelle balked.
gotta give me something more than that.
Jake's eyebrows almost popped off of his forehead. To make things worse, Michelle threatened to leave the show twice before Jake finally sent her home. Francesca Farago and Harry Jowsey made themselves the villains of Netflix's Too Hot to Handle from the very beginning. The pair couldn't even wait 24 hours before costing their team thousands of dollars with what might just be the most embarrassing kiss in the series. Harry and Francesca's first kiss, which was decidedly passionate, though it was preceded by some intense deliberation. It wasn't all that embarrassing though, until it devolved into childish backstabbing. As outlined by Cheat Sheet, their kiss cost the group $3,000 from the total prize money at stake. The castmates demanded to know who was at fault, and Harry ultimately blamed Francesca, even though he was the one to initiate the kiss. They all believed him, which turned Francesca into the house's resident villain, and she struggled to make friends. Francesca was so frustrated that she purposely cost the group more money by kissing castmate Haley Curtin as revenge. In short, it wasn't a shock that they eventually broke up. Tinsley Mortimer and Leah McSweeney were more like the real wild children of New York than the Real Housewives. Beyond the skinny dipping incident that infuriated Ramona Singer, the pair also shared an awkward smooch, but what made it embarrassing wasn't the kiss itself. During a getaway to Newport, Rhode Island that played out in a 2020 episode, Tinsley and Leah became fast friends. Leah's sister, Sarah McSweeney, ended up joining them for some of the trip, and the trio was filmed giving each other cheek kisses as they took selfies. Sarah joked that Leah always gets a little too sensual with me at moments. Then, Tinsley randomly blurted out,
I have been out with my sister.
Tinsley quickly backtracked, saying that they only kissed as a joke. Ultimately, this was a weird lead-up to Tinsley and Leah's steamy makeout later in the episode. Evan Bass and Carly Waddell's disastrous kiss was truly paradise for one of these Bachelor in Paradise contestants, and that's what made it so embarrassing. When the pair finally locked lips for the first time, it should have been fireworks, but Carly was skeptical from the beginning, telling the cameras,
would he be aggressive? Would it be soft? Would it be easy? Would it be weird? Would it be wonderful?
Instead, her expectations were shattered. After the pair locked lips, Carly revealed in a confessional that it was so terrible she couldn't understand, quote, how this man has 2 children. Her phrasing was cold, but it's even colder after hearing Evan's perspective. In his words, the kiss was, quote, incredible. Evan said, it was butterflies and explosions. It was perfect. All in all, the massively cringy smooch didn't seem to do much to keep the couple apart. Carly eventually accepted Evan's proposal during the season 3 finale. Love at First Kiss is a breeding ground for embarrassing kisses. Josh Basili, who is in his late 20s when his episode aired, had never been kissed before. Unfortunately, his first kiss was awkward and was described by Vice as a toothy, closed-mouth encounter. However, the real trouble came at the second smooch. Josh appeared to be confident going into his lip lock with Emily, only to lose his nerve at the last second and end up awkwardly kissing her hair before darting out without even making eye contact. The clip went viral, triggering a wave of secondhand embarrassment among the episode's more than 10 million viewers. With the sheer volume of smooches, it's not surprising that the UK version of Love Island is host to some of the most awkward kisses in reality TV history. Anything involving teeth is decidedly awful, but it's hard to keep the same precision as you'd have in an intimate hangout when you're in the midst of a tense physical challenge. Connor Durman learned this the hard way when he locked lips with his love interest Sophie Piper and basically turned himself into a meme. In the episode, which aired in January 2020, the pair were taking part in a challenge where Sophie had to pick a person to kiss by placing them in a specific part of the course. The reality star was in a love triangle with Connor and Kona, but she ended up choosing Connor. He was, of course, hyped. Unfortunately, when it was finally his moment to shine, he accidentally smashed his teeth into hers during their steamy kiss. This did nothing to thwart the almost constant jokes from fans about the star's blinding white veneers. The tab went as far as calling them, quote, Ross Geller level bad. Nonetheless, Connor and Sophie did manage to have a relationship that lasted until the pair found themselves in the midst of a national lockdown. Anyone who's lived through the early aughts knows that New York is both a place and a person of infamy. The reality star first burst into fame as the runner-up on 2 seasons of VH1's Flavor of Love, wherein she dated famed Public Enemy rapper Flavor Flav before eventually landing her own dating show spinoff. To push the cringe factor to the max, VH1 put New York on a double date with Flav and Goldie. After New York greeted the rapper, she sat down and was forced to watch him passionately make out with the other contestant. It was such an egregious display of PDA that it'd be a spectacle even if it didn't happen in front of New York, who wore a displeased grimace during the ordeal. The whole package is just a chef's kiss of reality TV cruelty and embarrassment all around. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.